All right, hey nerds. So, gonna talk about my boy Slavoj Zizek, favorite Hegelian slash Lacanian slash Marxist philosopher, and gonna talk about his video in which he shares his, as pretty much always, contentious opinion that basically deep inner self exploration, all this stuff about meditation that I've myself have been into a lot before, all the importance of inner contemplation, going deep into your mind and discovering your inner self, that this is all just deep shit and basically bullshit. So even as is pretty much always the case with Zizek, even when I disagree with his takes, I think they're awesome. So here we go.
I don't believe in going deep into your inner self. Sorry to be brutal. If you go deep into it, you find deep shit there, I say. Monstrous fantasies and so on.
Slavoj Zizek on consciousness. If you go too deep into it, you find deep shit. And quote, if you go too into it, you find deep shit. End quote. Slavoj Zizek on inner exploration.
I believe that the only way to overcome yourself is to identify with your mask. My favorite movie here, Rossellini.
Identify with your mask, not your Musk, as in Elon Musk. No. I like this idea that he gets into here. He's saying basically, don't get into yourself, get into your mask and deeply identify with your mask. So find a version of yourself in fiction that you want to identify with, not one that represents you, but one that you want to identify with, and explore that instead of yourself. Because if you explore yourself too deeply, then you'll be terrified at what you might find. I mean, I'm totally guessing, obviously, but I think, what he might be getting at is if you stare too deeply into the abyss stares back at you. That famous quote, of course, right? And so he gets into a film example here that I haven't heard of at all, and I'll let him say it. But basically, the idea is that the character impersonates someone, and he takes his role so seriously that, spoiler alert, but this is a movie from the 60s, so it doesn't matter, that by the end of the movie, this person who's been impersonating someone else has taken their role so seriously that he willfully lets himself be executed rather than reveal that he's not actually the person he's impersonating, which is interesting.
You should see it. You can get it on YouTube. From 1960, I think, with Vittorio General della Rovere. De Sica plays a poor guy who is caught, it's still occupied Italy, caught by the Nazis, and since he looks exactly like General della Rovere, a big name of resistance, they tell him, we killed Della Rovere, but resistance that we have in prison don't know this. So go there, pretend that you are General Della Rovere, and people will confide in you, and you will tell us that. You can guess what is the ending. He identifies so much to his role that he is ready to die. He doesn't say anything, and he is shot publicly as General Della Rovere.
That's just like... Yeah, I mean, if that's just like stupidity. You could say that's deep inner self-exploration to the point of fucking stupidity, just allowing yourself to get killed because you're not willing to admit that you're impersonating someone. I mean, in that situation, it seems like they would have been protected. But I mean, if the circumstances were reversed, obviously I would understand if people think that they're going to get executed if they're found out or something like that, but it doesn't sound like that was the case. So yeah, that just sounds stupid and shows how self-reflection can be overrated sometimes. Of course, it is important sometimes because there's so many people who have no goddamn self-awareness at all. So it's good to try to do that more, but you can get too obsessed with that and let it destroy your life. And it is kind of overrated, and I like that attitude about Zizek, of course.
In this sense, I am for General della Rovere. In this sense, I am for good alienation. who cares about his real self, a poor beggar, and so on? In this complete identification with another, you can find freedom.
In the complete identification with another, you can find freedom. That's good. You find freedom in identifying with, in this case, identifying with someone who's completely different from you, who's impersonating, and you find freedom because you don't identify with that person. So you're exploring that person deeply. So maybe you can even actually explore that person, that fake person's psyche a lot more deeply than you would otherwise explore your own, because you're much more comfortable with it, because you can be more honest with yourself about your about a fictional person's flaws than your own flaws in a sense, right? So yeah, but I mean, overall, I just like his point, as usual, his completely bombastic point that, you know, self-exploration is overrated. So as Zizek said, don't explore too deeply. If you go too deeply, you find deep shit.